Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call the October meeting of the Deschutes Public Library District Board to order. We have new staff here, and do we have any visitors online?
No.
Okay. All right, we have two things under the consent agenda this time. Our September 11th board meeting minutes and district disbursements. Did anybody have any changes or questions regarding these two items? If so, I would entertain a motion. For approval.
I make a motion, that to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? All right. It doesn't look like we have any public comments. So we will go on to results policy monitoring. It's a big report for the year, saying how we've been doing. So Todd, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, and first of all, my apologies. I'm probably gonna be standing up and sitting down a lot because the cord is too short. So, I wanted to, first of all, add a little color to this report by highlighting a couple of recent programs we've had. That don't really show up in the report, but give you a real feel for how we're making connections and meeting some of these results. So I'm gonna start with Erin Hale, community librarian, and to talk a little bit about a really great program that her and her colleagues did recently. Was that 2 weeks ago? Oh, and
It was last week.
last week, okay, and I'll let you tell us about it.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. As Todd said, my name is Erin Heil. I am a community librarian. I've been here for about 2 years. So last week on October 2nd, we had the Lapine Community Harvest and Resource Fair, and I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, are you able to see that?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. A little bit of background about what this event is. It is a free annual event thrown by multiple Lapine area groups that has an emphasis on connecting the Lapine community with free resources. This event has been going on for several years. I'll show you a little bit of the history of that next. But at this event, every attendee gets a free meal. This year, there were an estimated 450 to 500 people that attended, which is about 50 to 100 more than 2023. We don't have an exact number this year, just because there were so many people coming in. So this is an estimate based on how much food or how many dinners we served, and then feedback from community partners about how many items they gave away. We also create a recipe bag for every family. That is one of the biggest things that Deschutes Public Library does. And that is, if you think about like HelloFresh, we put an entire recipe inside of a bag for every family that attends. So we create 200 recipe bags. And again, the primary reasons for this are for community resources and for community connections. On the 2024 Planning Committee, the members were myself, Megan Sylvie and Carl Hearson from Lapine Elementary, Brian Behringer and Darla Brandon from Lapine Middle School, Scott Olszewski from Lapine High School, Amanda Armstrong, who has a really cool job where she works for Deschutes County Health Services, but she's also under the school district umbrella, and then Brandy Borton, who works for OSU Extension Services. Kind of the history about this, the first festival was in 2014, put on by the Lapine area schools. So that includes Lapine Elementary, Lapine Middle School, Lapine High School, and Roseland Elementary. And it was just a collaboration between them, and it was called the Lapine Fall Festival. In 2017 was the first collaboration with OSU Extension Services. In 2019, the name was changed to the Lapine Fall Festival and Health Fair. And in 2023 was the first collaboration with Deschutes Public Library and Deschutes County. Some of the history about this does have to do with me. I was the Lapine Elementary office manager from 2017 until I started work at DPL, or 2016, I don't know, sometime. And I organized the entire fall festival. I did a lot of the detail work. And when 2023 rolled around and some of the staff there wanted to bring back the festival, I was the last surviving person that still worked in the Lapine community. Everybody else had kind of moved on to different jobs. So that's kind of how DPL got involved with this. And moving it towards the health fair, I invited Rhea Fenewald, our health librarian, to join. And we were able to start working with them. And Deschutes County got involved because of Amanda Armstrong having that really interesting job working with the county and with the school district. And I don't remember why we changed the name to Fall Festival and Health Fair. 2019 is a different world. These are all the community partners that joined us this year. We had 10 more community partners sign up for the event and 8 more attend. We did have 2 community partners not make it this year because it was super smoky that day up until about 20 minutes before the event when the AQI went down to 89. So they backed out in preservation of their staff. But as you can see, kind of a wide range. All of the people or all of the groups that attend have something to do with health, definitely have something to do with Lapine. So we have NAMI Central Oregon, so that is mental health, Mountain Star Relief Nursery, Deschutes County Sheriff joined us, Campfire Central Oregon, all the elementary schools, or all the schools, Lapine Community Health Center, many groups. I didn't take a lot of pictures. This year was incredibly hectic. So the pictures are not great, but as this picture over here, this is a group of students from Lapine High School that work with COIC, which is Central Oregon Interagency Coalition, I believe, who helped me put together all of our bags. This is only half of the amount of bags that they did. I thought it would take 4 hours, so I scheduled them for 4 hours and they did it in 30 minutes. It was insane. Down here, we have all of the 5th grade leadership kids from Lapine Elementary. So these kids are amazing. They do tons of work for the community. And they helped us unload the bags. They helped all of our community partners bring in their tables and set up. They wanted to help as much as possible. So throughout the whole day, they were helping with anything they could help with. It was really, really helpful. These are literally last minute, probably 5 minutes before we closed it down, pictures, because I realized I took 0 pictures and I should probably have some pictures. So you can't see super well, but we had all of the community partners on the blacktop lined up with their tables. And then in the background here, we had a big bouncy slide. On the grass, we also had a face painter. On the other side of the blacktop, there was the food. And then this is our table over here with our early childhood librarians who really got into it, and they all ordered the same outfit. They created cute felts to create the burrito soup recipe in felts and connect it back to what we were doing, which was awesome. So this shows a little bit of what DPL does with Lapine Community Health and Resource Fair. So there's a lot of event organization. Again, just because I have been the person that has done this event in the past. I'm the primary organizer of the event, but I do work with the people that I mentioned before. Most of it being primary is because I'm working with school district folks in the first month of school, and we all know how that goes. So I am totally fine taking on some of the extra burden. We do the recipe bags. We fund that as well. We do get a lot of donations for it. So we had Shop Smart of Lapine, Rays of Lapine, Winco, Costco, and Local Acres all donate items this year, which was amazing. We did still have some funding we had to do because we try our best to create a recipe that will not go bad. So people it will be shelf stable as long as possible. So this year it had a lot of canned goods, which ended up being more expensive than we anticipated. We also have our booth. This year it was all about early learning and development. Our funding also allowed us to have a photo booth for families, a free photo booth where families could get pictures together, which was really wonderful. And then we were able to fund the bouncy slide as well. We also bring in the connections to community partners that we all know. A lot of our outreach brings in people that might not know about these events. We had this year, we brought in a bunch of library of things. So Lee and Cheryl helped me coordinate bringing in a lot of the outdoor library of things items that we have, and we could filled the whole grass area with library of things, and people were really interested in it. So that was a fun way to bring that in. And then we bring in librarians. So this year, I'm so glad this year we had so many librarians join us. We had Graham join us, and he ended up cooking all the food. Rhea did all of the library of things. Josie helped me all day long lugging those bags around, and then sat at the table. Oh, sorry, the light turns off and I'm at East Bend. Then I got to move around a minute, turn on the lights again. Come on, guys. Okay. Back.
That means your time's up now.
And then the early learning team doing the table. This is what the other groups do. So Ben Lapine Schools provides the space. We do it at Lapine Elementary. They pay for the food. They have staff volunteers and the 5th grade leaderships. OSU Extension Services creates the recipe that we do for the recipe bags, and they also donate all the spices so people can try the recipe there. Deschutes County Health Services works with Sources of Strength, which is a new program at Lapine Middle School, and they created mental health bags. And then I just wanted to put some community partner feedback here. I'm not going to read all this, but people had really good feedback this year, saying they had a lot of participation and engagement. Our biggest feedback was maybe not doing it during homecoming week, which it's kind of hard for us to determine because we start planning this in March, but it seems like people had a really great time this year. And that is that. So I'll stop sharing my screen now, maybe.
I want to highlight, Aaron had a program in the Pine until 5 and then stuck around in the room there to do this. So thank you for doing that too.
You're welcome.
Need to tap some of that energy.
Yeah.
It's just pure adrenaline.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for that presentation. I had no idea that that was going on. So that's a lot of great connection with the community. Does anybody have any questions for Erin or comments?
I just want to know, where do you hide all these people? We keep having
Yeah.
presentations coming out and they're fabulous, and I'm
You have to be out in the community and at these fairs and festivals to find them, so. Yeah.
Any other questions or? Thank you, Erin. Thank you for your leadership in making this happen for the Lapine community. You can tell from the comments that people really got a lot out of this and enjoyed themselves as well. So thank you so much for your hard work and for everybody else's hard work who participated.
Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Erin.
Thank you.
And then I just, the other event we had just last week, 2 or 3 weeks ago, was the Festival of Voices, which we talked a little bit about the last meeting, but it was such an amazing event. I wanted Chantal, actually, I was going to say, I was going to have our event staff talk about it, but they're out doing programs right now. So Chantal is going to represent them. So.
Yes, I'm a sad substitute, and I don't have a beautiful presentation like that, so I'm just gonna go off some notes. And thank you, I know that Honey and Ann were there too.
Aaron.
Okay, great. So if you all wanna add into what you experienced, that would be great, but this was our first annual Festival of Voices. And came from a vision of Liz Goodrich, who many years ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, there was the Festival of Culture. And it lasted a good 8 years or so. It was in Madras, and it was also in Redmond. And we have participated a few years, and of course, COVID hit, everything went away. And Liz felt like it's really important, I think, to bring something of this nature back and host it in Redmond, right in time for us to almost open our new library. So to get people used to going to Redmond and having this experience. So, it was organized primarily by Liz and her team, Becca, Elsa, and Laurel, and then the community librarians were a big help as well. And they manned 2 tents for us all day long, giving out information and assisting people, and it was great. But what was really exciting is all of the partners that we had. And this is just the beginning. We know that we're going to be doubling and tripling this in years to come. So we have the Latino Community Association, the Fathers Group, Ben for Ukraine, the COCC Multicultural Center, the Japanese American Society of Central Oregon, and the Central Oregon Disability Support Network. Those are just the major partners that we have. We also partnered with the team from Warm Springs who did corn husk weaving. We had Polynesian and Tahitian dancing from a local Hawaiian group. We had Ikebana from the Japanese American Society, hip hop from Blue Flames. Bagpipe meet and greet, a South Indian dance group, Ukrainian puppetry, cultural fashion show, and then the day ended with a naturalization ceremony. But all those things that I just listed, those happened, something new was happening every 30 minutes throughout the day. So the day started at 11 and went until 5 o'clock. And the team scheduled every 30 minutes a different performance or cultural immersion event. We had 2 different stages that people could go to, and it just all worked really, really well. The end of the day, I think, was the most special from what I heard, and I couldn't be there, but maybe you can speak more to this, Erin. But at the end of the day, there were 20 citizens from 12 different countries who became American citizens. And we worked with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and there was a beautiful ceremony. And if you could maybe share a little bit about
It was incredible because I had an opportunity to observe the naturalization ceremony and just seeing the excitement and the joy of these participants to have.
we had really good media coverage all day. And it's a sad note to have to even mention this, but the day went without a hitch. There was no ugly behavior whatsoever. And we were somewhat concerned about that people wouldn't see that we were gathering people from all different backgrounds and that made, caused a stir, but it did not. And it was a beautiful day. Liz and her team got flags from all over the world and had those out, which is really lovely. And it just made a big impact. And the best part to me is when you turn around from all the fun festivities, there's the new Redmond Library down the path. So next year it will be at the Redmond Library and it will connect it between the park and the library, like out on the terrace and things like that.
I thought it was just a great event, and the length of time I was there, it went like awful. I'm sure there were some hiccups, but I never saw it.
No, they had their walkie-talkies, which were really well for the bands and walkie-talkies, and the only thing that really didn't go well was at the very beginning, setting up the tents, the people who we had hired to do that were like an hour late. But even with that, everything went beautiful and we got started on time and, it
It was fun.
Yeah, I agree. It was just neat to see, there were so many, the variety of groups that were there was so interesting and people were really, going from booth to booth and lots of conversations and talking and learning, and there were a lot of resources available. And yeah, so I just thought it was a really positive event with grandparents, grandkids, parents. It was really wonderful to see it resurrected in that form. I think is really a great idea, and I really commend the staff for that too.
I want to go over statistics. I do want to pause for a moment. I want to recognize Heidi Powers, our supervisor here in Sunriver. She's done an amazing job getting this building to where it is today. Got us to a great grand opening ceremony and I want to say, how many years did you just hit?
25.
25. Yes, so imagine for 25 years, basically coming into this library, there's a familiar face. And it's amazing to, just here, I was just out of Madras and I was talking to one of their librarians who'd been there 20 years and one of their staff who is, well, 22, said, and he's been here the whole time I grew up. And so just highlight that and really appreciate you hosting us today. Before I talk a little bit more about this report, I do want to look at the statistics mainly because there's just a few highlights I want to say about these. The first one is I was prepared to come here and explain to you why our circulation went down this year. And I was in shock when I saw that we went up. Because we had, Sunriver was in a temporary space, Redmond was in a temporary space. We've been opening and shutting buildings during that time. And so that is, it's just an amazing, how that looks. We can dig in a little more to see some of those numbers. It really, you'll see digital has been something people have been turning to a lot more, probably based on some of that. But our attendance is still incredibly strong, which is, again, a surprise for me. I probably shouldn't be up here talking about how I'm surprised at what we're doing, which is really exciting. Just imagine when we get these buildings open, it's going to be incredible. Downtown Bend went up a lot, and so that's the other ones you can kind of see. Those are all the libraries that have been shut down or temporary spaces. So, and then new cards. That's the highest level of new cards in our history. And I'll point out that we have been around for 104 years. So that's again just an incredible sign for us. The read, watch, and listen is something that doesn't change a lot over the years. Usually what we see and is watch goes down because DVDs is just a dying format. And that's been a trend we've been watching for the last 10 years. I will say you can't trust all statistics. So see this area here, or digital magazines have gone up. People are not going crazy reading magazines all of a sudden. It has to do with how the company that we're using reports statistics. And if you go in and you say, I like this magazine, it starts automatically giving you the magazine every week. So I will couch it in, don't get too excited about that numbers, and that does kind of break down some of that highlight. On the other hand, I've been subscribing to some magazines and I really like the fact that they pop in without me asking to. Yes, and you'll see here kind of ebooks has definitely gone up. The printed books actually went down a little bit, which makes makes much more sense based on, again, those closures. Watch breakdown again, you just get to see how digital is going down. Well, digital is kind of going down a little bit, DVDs is going up. And then digital audiobooks just continues to rise. It's been amazing to watch this over the last 10 years. I think we all either are addicted or have friends who have suddenly become addicted to audio. Which is really funny for me, having worked in libraries for 30 years. And, you know, I used to get the books on cassette. And, but to hear people that, did you know that you could listen to these things? That's what I know. This one, breakdown by genre, and we've got adults, children's, and teens. And definitely you kind of see a little bit more of the trend over time, and I think this one really is impacted by some of the closures. But surprisingly, the Book of Librarian is really staying strong. Book of Librarian is a program where you can call in, you want dedicated one-on-one time with a librarian, if you're thinking of starting a business, something where you need more research. And so that's really exciting to see that, because each of those times that we meet with somebody, those are extended. This is like anywhere from half an hour to 5 hours that we're spending with people.
And what did the prior years look like fiscal year 19, was it low as well?
These were low, and.
I mean, but even before COVID, was this?
Yes, it was higher.
Oh, it was.
COVID is definitely,
Okay.
and again, we are inflating a little bit because we've changed how we're doing some of our statistics, and we're including some things that we are basically local librarian that we account for. So again, don't trust everything I say. And I want to highlight this because I don't think I explained it when I sent it to you. Everything where I'm comparing with another library, those are old statistics, those are 2 years old. So we're looking at the year 22, 23, and that has to do with the fact that that's how long it takes for the state library to gather all the statistics and get it to us. So it's always kind of interesting because my reaction is, we need to do something here, and then realize, well, that was 2 years ago, we may have done something there, it's hard to influence that. First regulations per capita. That is one you'll see, Cedar Mill always comes up, so I'll highlight that is a library in the Portland metro area that is surrounded by 3 or 4 cities that are not part of their system, but people come over and use it. So that inflates their statistics, especially per capita statistics. Just highlight that. The other piece is, it is much harder to get high per capita numbers in a community like Chutes, where it's so spread out, as opposed to more dense communities. But still interesting numbers for us. The digital downloads per capita, I'm very proud of that one still. That's a very high one. We are separate from most of the libraries in the state. They belong to a state consortium. We went away from that about 15 years ago because we felt like it allowed quicker access for our customers, and I think the numbers kind of follow up with that.
So you're saying you think we just have a better product or better level of service?
I think we have lower hold ratios, so you can get your books
Okay.
faster. At the time that we left, we were looking at, there was a bestseller at the time, I think it was 50 Shades of Grey. But I looked, and if you put a hold on it, in the state consortium at the time, it would have been 5 years before you got your book.
Wow.
And which I figured at that time, you probably would have been on your 3rd device by the time you got it. So that was a real impetus for us to. Adult programs per capita, very excited to see that, because this is actually a number, our goal once we have all our buildings in place is to basically double the number of programs we're doing. And so the fact that we're already high to start with is a really great sign. Teen programs is, this has always been weird for us, because for years we were above everybody else. We haven't really changed anything, so sometimes the way they change statistics change. Most of our programs for teens are outreach that we do out in the community as well. And I had no idea why mom didn't report these statistics. Very happy. So they still exist. I'm not sure what happened. And of course, see them. Someday we're going to take a picture. See them. Children's program attendance. Yeah, that is one that's will be interesting to see. Unfortunately, again, we're gonna have to wait 2 years, but once we are up to full speed, because these intermittent closures are really affecting our ability to have those programs. And then the last one was just how do people come and view us through the website, and what do they do? So we throw that in there.
Difference between a visit and a page view.
Sorry, I gotta get that up before. Public website, unique visitors, public website visits, website page view, oh, okay. I believe it's when they start clicking around the different pages on our web.
Yeah.
So the first one is really just when they pop in,
Okay.
and then it kind of expands out as they do more things. Yes, anyway, that was it for the statistics, but I just wanted to get a chance, and also feel free to dig in deeper if you have more questions on it. Because statistics, you can look at that, I can give you an explanation that explains it one way and say the exact same opposite thing, and they both could be true. So it's definitely worth asking questions if you're.
Because the information is a couple years old, do you make decisions based on this?
Not the state comparisons. So the first part of the statistics are very recent. They're up to July 30th
You're right.
of 2024. And quite frankly, I haven't been focusing as much on that. Just because we're in such I would say for the last 4 years, it's been that between COVID and all our building projects. It's been hard to get a trend going where we can say like, oh, yeah,
Thanks.
yeah,
We want to be.
And
That one.
yes.
those, annual new cards, I mean, do you expect now with, Central coming on, that won't just ease up and jump?
I expected to start in Redmond and.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep your interest and watch that.
yes. Yeah. And then as far as the report, it is kind of a detailed report. I will highlight that. Bonnie, I think you said when you got here, how do you have time to do all this? I don't do any of it, but our staff does. And this was kind of a fun report to do. I sent this out to all staff and say, give me things that you think fit these. I will say, especially as when you're looking at these, either keep it in mind now or keep it in mind as we look at results in the future is my interpretation of where these fit meet what you expect for the results, because sometimes it's a challenge for us to say, like, does this really meet what you were saying, or are we misinterpreting that piece?
I'd like to know, what is a sensory Halloween? That sounds like great fun.
The sensory ones, I think there's a special population that they have that are on the spectrum. Yes, so it's meant just for people that are on the spectrum. And they're often, so it's not a be, so they choose different sensory things each time. So that kids might be more sensitive to noise, to light, to whatever, they'll accommodate for that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess my comments on this, as always, because we've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And we used to continually have the discussion of we're not supposed to measure effort, we're
Yes.
supposed to measure outcome, which, you know, in a lot of cases is nearly impossible to do. But I guess my comment on what's listed here, and I think I brought this up last year, is that I would like to see more context around the statements. For instance, if there is a 378 figure for book librarian questions, how does that compare to previous years? Like, is it
Yes.
is it increasing, is it decreasing, or where are we seeing increases in interest and participation, what things are falling away? Because I think that provides us with good information on kind of how we're doing with the public. And same with the statistics. and I realize now is not the time to be doing this, these are fine as they are, but, in the future, once things normalize, I would be almost more interested in. Well, and we do have trends for a
Yes.
lot of these things,
Yeah.
but trends, for search, for instance. Like, are people checking out more new books when we increase the size of the collection? To the point that we intend to, I mean, is that gonna be a big increase in for search?
Right.
Is it gonna be, how does that affect the audio book, physical ebook mix? And I guess particularly, one of the things that I'm always interested in is the new cards. And it's great that the number's going up, but another way to look at it is new cards per capita. Like, is our new card growth matching our population growth? How are we doing, what percentage of people in the county have cards and are using cards? And if we grow by 10%, do we see a 10% growth in library cards? Do we see a larger growth? So
Yeah.
those are the kinds of things that I would like to see once we actually get the buildings open and.
Yes, and that would be the other thing, as we do that. At some point, I may come back with things like this, and then if you have more questions, we can dig deeper into anything. Like new cards is, again, like I said, you can throw things different ways. There are a few things that do happen. We are probably better than most libraries at cleaning out our database.
Right.
So if you haven't used your card in 3 years, we drop you. So that does inflate that number a little bit. We do have anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 people a year moving into Deschutes County, so that factors in there as well. But you're right, this doesn't go into that next statistics. And that'd probably be one I think we want to think about when. So my goal is to start working and we'll be sending out a doodle poll in January, February, to start looking at results. Statements and seeing how do we want to revise those. We've kind of sat on those for many years, and how does it fit what this board wants? And then the big thing for me would be, and how would you like to see me show that? So that would really help me out, so that we could have statements like, if you said, if you're doing that well, I would love to see this statistic, and then we can start measuring for that.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's not in there that should be in there? I mean, we kind of did that a long time ago. But time has marched on and different issues have emerged, and do we have results policies that cover all the things that we face as a library district today? And obviously, we don't want these to whipsaw wildly from year to year and have the staff not know what our priorities are, what results they're looking towards, but to take a fresh look at them and see, are there things that are missing? Are there things that aren't applicable anymore? Or are there things that are outdated in the way that we're stating? I think that's a possibility as well.
Is there a way, is that counted the number of new cards per library, so we can see this one is not growing, this one's growing?
Yeah, we can get as almost as granular as you want to get.
One thing nuance thing that we do that, I don't know if another library that does this, but because we're growing so rapidly and happening, ever since COVID hit, every month we send out a postcard to our new residents and ask them to get a library card. And then we usually say, you know, there's a fun promo, I would can come and do that, so as an incentive. And I think that has helped to just raise awareness about that for new residents. You know, just looking at ways to draw the new people in.
Good. And so I think there's a lot of things that we can take a look at And questions that you guys have as far as how is this measured? One of the things that I thought was fascinating during the tour here, during the open house was they know exactly how many people are in the building. It's measured and that just gets me curious. It's like, how long are people spending? I mean, I don't know whether it gets that granular, but like how many people visit each day, and how does that match with our hours, and how do we, just as an education thing. I realize that that's getting down into the nitty gritty, but I think it's interesting, and it has to do with how well we're serving people. If the busiest time of the day, which I know this is not true, is 7 o'clock at night, and we close the doors on people and kick everybody out, maybe we need to make some adjustments. I mean, I know that you watch that all the time, so.
Yeah, and some of those, I'll say, one thing I'm always trying to temper is we know a lot. And we could just bury you with information. And that might be one, as we're looking at our calendar, like what things would you like to know about? We would love to get in there and say, what does it look like? Because we do have great statistics about, yeah, we can show like different ways, like here, you can tell by how our checkouts go.
Right.
Where the ebb and flow goes throughout the day, what happens at different times of the week. Yeah, all those things.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. And it'll really help us know how the buildings are being used and kind of see changes, trends over time as these buildings open.
And then some, as we're going through these, if you identify them, if we're not measuring them, we can start measuring them, so I will say, we can get really Big Brother, they have equipment out where you can have cameras. Where it actually has a heat map of where everybody goes in the building and where you start to see, oh, there's a trend that everybody comes in and moves to the right and then circles around. We did not opt for that technology, mainly because we were also trying to save some privacy.
Yes, and I just want to say that, I find this format helpful. In reading through here, it really gives me a broad picture of all the programs that are happening, and one that really drew my eye was the Deaf Cafe, where they brought in people to talk about planning for deaf and the deaf doula, and to me, that's a real special type of program for the library to take that on, and for the public to embrace that. So this format really helps me as a board member to really understand what's happening across the district. So, having more data and statistics is helpful too, but I do think this is just as helpful for us to understand, what the library is doing program-wise.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we will use this when we prioritize results for the budget. So,
Yeah, before I forget, because I'm going to say it later,
yes,
I will be trying to schedule a work session. All right, I'm making a big word. A work session, either November or December, depending on your availability. I think we can do it in about a 2-hour meeting, where we basically just, the only goal would be to look through these and rank them. I think for Bunny and Ann, remember that's where we said 3 if we want more effort, 2 if we want to stay the same. And that'd be really helpful for the budget. But then I also will be working on trying to schedule, we have a facilitator and I met with, her name's Jan McGowan, to kind of help us go through and talk about what we would like to see as far as the results, what kinds of things you would like to see that the library try to achieve, and we're looking at January, February for that auto view for. So,
and we wanted to know in general, before Lori just starts flinging
Yeah.
dates out there. what works best for people? I mean, does Friday afternoon work okay? Are weekends better? Are nights better?
It's a little reward for me.
It's just.
Especially in the winter, I prefer afternoon rather than the evening.
Yeah, I think most of
And
us.
any day is fine. I can handle any day really.
What I was going to do is have Lori just put dates and then ask that if you had any there's a note field. But if you had preferences, like, hey, this date looks good, but morning is gonna be better, or evenings are gonna be better, just let us know. So, it's-
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so, we need a motion to affirm that the library is in compliance with the results policy monitoring report. Anybody want to make a motion?
I looked at the library is in compliance with the results policies monitoring report. One second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Hey, Greg.
Good to see you all again. Yeah, I was thinking that on my report, the very first section there, the general, how the team is working stuff. I wanted to share with you, Kirby put together a poll and sent it out. And it was a question about how is our communication as a team? Because that was when we started early on the project. We talked about some of the key elements that we thought were really important. And they got like 85–90% of everybody responded and had a lot of good comments, but very positive comments. What people thought was happening and how the project team is communicating. And generally, I always write this stuff. What do I see? And this month I was able to actually, wow. And then Kirby shared, it was a anonymous response and everything, but they shared the results and how, and so it just really instructional and wow. People do feel like we're working well together and communicating well and as a group and as a team. So thought I'd share that with you. Schedule, no changes to any of the schedules. They're all moving along really well. There's target dates and everything. And the biggest construction activity, of course, is the central library. And we saw through the photos and videos and stuff that we attach and that are out there. They're making incredible progress right now and literally running 2 or 3 days ahead of their schedule this deep into the project. So it's like a really good indicator of, hey, their schedule makes sense and they're following right along and they're not incurring impacts and delays that they're having to start to work and make up. They're literally progressing really well. We talk a lot about availability of materials, manpower, equipment, and how that's coming along and all of it ordering and we have a whole bunch of equipment and materials sitting on the job site that won't get installed for 2 or 3 months. And it's because we said, look, order it, bring it, deliver it, we'll pay for it because we want it early. And they really promoted that subcontractors. So I think it's a very proactive approach that they've been taking. And so we've just been very encouraged about the, real sound push on the project. As we get into this one being, the largest project we're doing and the most complicated. So very encouraged by how that's been going, everything else. So really no other changes, like I said. Downtown Bend is just rolling along in its phase and it will sit there and wait for us to get central done and open. Budget, kind of same, no changes to the budget. Doesn't mean that not looking at the budget and monitoring and what's going on. And part of it is that, as we establish budgets for things, we may have expenditures, but they're within those budgeted amounts. And so no real surprises. We have I think 3 authorizations to go through tonight, around work that we want to progress with. But the contingencies, of course, have remained the same, still very strong contingencies. Part of it is also that I'm not seeing anything that I'm concerned about. Hey, there's a big exposure. Everything that we've seen is really falling within what we've already planned and anticipated and forecasted. Redmond, as we're coming to the end of that one, you know, you always look and say, okay, are you gonna get surprised with change orders coming in and surprises of cost claims from subcontractors and suppliers and that? We're not seeing that. I went through a cost report today for this past month from Kirby, and it's, you know, trending right where we've been tracking it for the last few months is how they're doing on the GMP, and very high confidence level that we're gonna finish all of their work and will not exceed the GMP. And ultimately, I would expect that we'll see some funds returned back to DPL from Kirby's out of their contract, just won't spend it. So that's been very positive because we've gone all the way through this since we had the initial change orders, setting the GMP and getting some costs set up at the front. We really have not had to increase or change their GMP for more than the last 12 months. Very positive how that's going. I think on Central, it's moving along those same lines. They are really working hard on completing all their buyouts, subcontract awards, and getting those all finalized. You know, we finalized the GMP, and they're now finalizing all their subcontracting. It's gone very well. They haven't any real surprises, so that just again reinforces our confidence in the budget as it's set up. It is adequate to do everything that we want to do, execute on that. So, like I said, from a budget standpoint, in good shape there. The procurement, we'll talk about those separately, but we've got a couple of things that we want to move forward with. As we get going on some things, the insurance, no issues. On construction activity and design, you know, the most active being Central under construction, not a lot of design there, a few small things. We really did some work finalizing some of the shelving adjustments that we were able to look at how Redmond ended up and make some of the more adjustments to make it better for how it's going to be utilized. And then furniture is getting wrapped up. We're well into our early learning. You know, we released them a couple months ago to commence technical design, figure plant or Fabricator and prototypes. And so that's moving right along. Redmond is, everything there is all about just finishing and putting it in place. And you can say there's a lot of books going on the shelves. It's Lindsay can test, she's been up there looking at that. It just seems like that is coming along good to get to our finish line up there. Downtown Bend, probably the most active in design, or the most active in design. We're at 50% CDs right now. We'll actually get to 100% CD at the end of this month. Our budget has been tracking to where we wanted. We're doing another cost estimate update right there. We'll be going through that in the next couple of weeks, but everything that we looked at this past month is indicating that we're really tracking to those, you know, kind of planned expenditures, and then designed to make sure we work within those limits. And I talked to Kirby's cost estimator yesterday because I wanted to know what's it looking like, how you doing, and he was very encouraged, very positive that he'd been through the plans and they were looking like what he was expecting. Well, in his view, he looks at it and says, this is going to cost this much and this much. Well, as the plans develop, he's looking at it and saying, okay, did they draw what I think I priced? And so it was very encouraging to hear Randy say, so very, very optimistic. it is continuing that trend, which really represents a good understanding between our contractor and our designer. What are they gonna put on paper? So that they can forecast what that cost is gonna be, and that's where projects can really quickly go sideways. If contractor's thinking you're over here and the architect's over there. And so good working relationship, good communication between them, it's really fostered, real good quality budget for us. So we're seeing that, not too much else on that side. Hopefully the photos and stuff are all looking good and helpful and accessible, and some of them are large links to large files.
I just, anytime that I need a little boost during the day, I just ride by. Which I did today, because I was down in that part of town, and it's just great.
Really is. So we walk project every day when we get up on the floors. From the second floor, you can see the mountains. There's more views, and then when you get up to the third floor, you're just literally looking on top of the trees. Incredible views up there. I think, early on, they estimated what kind of views it's gonna be, but they're very spectacular.
Great. In the Redmond Library. Got a tour of that. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Like
just,
some of the choices that were made.
But now we have a lot of furniture in.
Yeah.
Since it's
It's
really
scattered
changing
about
right
or
now.
something.
Yeah.
yeah, there was just a Facebook post this afternoon, and just to read the comments was really, people can't wait for the stores to open. Yeah. You're fighting people off at the end.
It's a lot of them aren't waiting.
Well, it's just like dangling something in front of people. It's really, people are really excited to see inside of that building.
I do know we have somebody from backstage stopped Chantal and I from trying to come. in, So somebody.
Yes. Yeah.
We did get signs that, I know we didn't hear any of that, but we did get signs that finally on the door saying, please be patient, we're still working, but a lot of people want that.
Well, I think one of the best things was when because I kind of snuck in during the Festival of Voices, and to have the people that are working on building the building be as excited as they are, because the guy welcomed me in and introduced me to the guy that had to say, yeah, you can walk around. But I mean, he was just so excited to be a part of it. It was.
I heard some great comments from the man, he was the head guy. And he just was gushing about how easy it was to work with the staff. And you don't get a lot of projects like that, and this had been such a pleasure.
Of course. Yeah.
Mark is a person who just speaks his mind.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's.
He's a really good one.
To get to the end of these projects and to have people to have everybody involved be happy with it, I mean, then you've done the job right.
We had the young man on the central side, as we were walking around, and said, my dad was in construction. He told me, in your career, you're gonna get one or two buildings like this. So it's like, so I'm trying to soak in every bit, and it's just so, I think it's so exciting for construction people that like, this is something, not only they built, they can come and bring their family and show them what they did.
Right.
I get a lot more comments that people are noticing it, seeing it, and are excited. I don't get any comments of, oh, you shouldn't be doing it.
Everybody is really excited.
One of the things on Redmond, so John Roddy, we're doing our sculptures, it goes up the end of this month.
Oh, nice.
So early November, it'll be done and hanging, visible to see also. So that's gonna be, I think, really cool to see how that adds another factor to that.
Oh, that's gonna be, yeah, could be incredible.
But any, not any
Yeah.
other questions on? the-
No, if you wanna go ahead and help us into the decisions, Greg.
So the first one is on commissioning services, and so this is our, Systems West Engineers is our commissioning agent, and they commission mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all of those systems for us. And as we went through, and we did it on Redmond already, prior authorization, was we had some enhanced commissioning that we wanted to do. And this had to do with our lead certifications, as we are going for a lead, we're pursuing, we're going to be gold on both. We had set silver at a minimum, and we're achieving gold on, and we're probably gonna have a chance to hit platinum, which is the highest level lead on. So we'll see, they have to go through all of our submission and confirm that we're close. But some of the points in there is about enhanced commissioning, and it's just additional work that the commissioning agent will do. And it's also work that they'll do with the library over the first couple of years to continue to track how the systems are performing, how they can be tweaked and adjusted to ensure that they're working at the optimal level. And so you get lead points for that because they feel like that's a really good policy or just a procedure to do, because it helps Robert and his staff understand, hey, is the system working properly? Is it working at its optimum level to where it's the most energy efficient and producing the best quality of the environment? So we're incorporating that into central. We just have not done that. So that was a portion of the cost that was added. The other is that we have not set up in the contract with Systems West downtown Denver. We did that intentionally. In the very original contract, we put money in for them to do building reviews, because they do a review as the design is coming along. We said, look, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do. We talked about this when we went through the budget, where we really analyzed all of the existing systems, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, what needed to be replaced. And so as we finalize that, we could then say to our commissioning agent, okay, here's everything we're gonna change and what we're gonna do and what we want to commission. So they were able to finalize their proposal services. These do fit within the budgets that are established both in central as well as downtown. So this is the authorization, increasing authorization to add the scope to their contract.
Greg, explain or define commissioning agent. How does that differ from your?
So they are a professional engineering firm. And it's a specialty, so what they do is, after the subcontractor, so. Couple different levels, one, Miller Hall with their MEP engineer designs the system and sets the performance and criteria. Then the contractor, subcontractors for plumbing and electrical build the systems to meet the plans and specs. Once they're done and they've gone through and started programming the system, commissioning agent comes in and they take it through a whole series of tests. And they test how everything is functioning and working. Is it meeting the requirements of the plans and specs? And is it operating at the established performance criteria? In there, so that it's running, fans are running at the right speed and correct amount of airflow, water flows, valves are turning on and off, and how things are programmed. So when you think about all of our lighting controls, we have daylight harvesting, so when the sun is real bright, it automatically turns off lights. Well, they test every one of those things to make sure they're actually working and that they're working the way they're supposed to. And there's a lot of adjustment in these systems that can be done. And so with them, as they test them, they say, well, it's running, but it's not running maybe the way we want it to. the way it works functionally for staff as well. So that's what they're doing. So it's a specialized, they are mechanical engineers and electrical engineers by profession. So we are included in their contract to do a peer review of our MEP designs. Because that's one of the hardest things to challenge when you look at, we can look at where walls are going, where doors are going and what the finishes are, but you know, who looks at and says, are you sure this fan is the right size? Is this motor the right size? Is the air gonna flow properly or? And so they also provide that service. It's a little different from the commission, but it's a professional peer review. They review every set of plans that come out. They send in a written list of questions and comments. So one, they become very intimate with what the designer expects about the system, so they can test it.
Good, thank you.
Mhm.
And then am I correct in understanding that the change order also includes that perhaps annual subscription for services? Will that be an ongoing cost?
There is an option to continue doing the enhanced. It's planned for 1 year.
Oh,
After the commissioning is complete, then over the next year, they will do trends. And so they capture data electronically of how the system is working and monitor that. And then they report that back to Robert and his staff at BDL, how the systems are working. So
is that monitoring required to maintain the LEED certification?
no, not
Is
committing.
it related? It's related,
It's-
right?
It's related in that when you do enhanced commissioning, it actually earns you lead points in how you score. And they do that because once you commission buildings and started them up and go, this helps to make sure, hey, most of the time, if you're gonna have, it occurs in the first year or two, right? That's why we have warranty periods and stuff. And so this helps to really monitor and make sure that the building is gonna stay on track. I think leads or the lead goal, their goal is, hey, if people get used to checking this stuff, they'll actually do it for a longer period. And we do built in the systems, a number of things that Robert will be able to look at in the building control system, sub-metering systems that are built into the system where you can look at and see what the usage is and the performance is. So it does help in an element of training.
So during that time, Greg, and they find something's not working. And you just mentioned a warranty period, so then that goes back to the warranty period and it's kind of starting over to make sure that that's working.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, if they see something that is literally, hey, all of a sudden this isn't running like it was when we commissioned it 6 months, 9 months ago. It's an early indicator that will help make some stops. To pick up the phone and call that subcontractor and say, we're seeing this happen, we need to take a look at it. And the mechanical and electrical systems are quite sophisticated, new equipment, more and more fully computer where it's on computer managed or ran, how it's all programmed. We've had programmers working on Redmond since July. Literally fine tuning and tweaking everything, it all tracks and it's all in their control system. This system is one that literally is in every building. You will be able to monitor and view from 1 second from wherever EPLs happen. So it's a very, smart system, intelligent system.
Todd, will our staff get additional training to manage the system?
Yeah, I think I've heard of it, commissioning as well.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, yeah, Our facilities department is about to get close to 30 hours of training over the next month, just in the Redmond branch, so there's a lot we're sucking up right now.
But it just makes a lot of sense to have experts on the team after the building's open, so in case, I mean, like what happened in La Pine where I know that this doesn't cover that, but to have people that can come in and speak the language of the subcontractors and say, this is what we're seeing. That's really helpful.
You know, we added in new replacement HVAC controls and Sisters in the Pine. That was one of the changes we talked about a while back, and they're actually executing on that right now. We did it here earlier. Build it this way.
Right.
It will literally help to really catch those problems sooner, that they will show up with the system that we're putting in, so that some of what happened in the Pine, should something be going wrong, they'll be able to ideally identify it earlier.
Right.
And see it and help solve it, so.
Okay, does anybody else have additional questions, or would someone like to make a motion on this one?
I can. I move to provide the library director signing authority up to $680,000 for the Central Canton Bend Library's commissioning services.
That is okay. Sure. Discussion, all in favor? Right. Motion passes. Okay. RFID and automated materials.
Yes. This is FE system, so this is, you know, all of that equipment that you see, even in this library, whether it's the RFID gates up front, and then the main library is the AMH and that equipment. So this is for Central. It's a fairly large budget, as you can see, it's $1.3 million in there. We've gone through and finalized the design, but it does adjust as in this technology does change regularly. It's changed since I started on the project, and it continues to change. And so I think we built in a couple things within this authorization limit as we finalize the contract with Tech is continued escalation costs and stuff, some of the shipping costs and things, because a lot of this does come out of Europe. They're based out of Europe and Australia. And a certain amount of that cost escalations, we've built in some contingencies within here to deal with that. There's some adjustments to the scope and adjustments to the final pricing as we finalize that contract with them. But this will let us go to there. So this fits within the budget that was established, and all of the components that are listed on that spreadsheet are all of the little stuff that goes in. Parts, the AMH machines, and the checkout stands. I don't know all the names, Linda's.
Lynn, does this encompass everything that you had hoped for as far as functionality?
Yes. We'll set up Central as a main distribution hub for the library district. And it's a lot more flexibility. If you saw one in Redmond, we were for Redmond, it was probably under a big plastic tarp, maybe. It's the vacuum stack room. It's very super tarp.
It's
Yeah. One in Redmond is 7 and Central would be 19. So it's gonna be much larger and really set us up for future growth to do all the other things.
Any questions? This is a big component of these buildings, so. I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to provide the library director signing authority up to $1,300,000 for the Central Library of RFID and AMH equipment.
Second. Second. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
So the last one is the early learning fabricator for Sunriver. That's Figure Plant who's doing this. And we went through and we approved an authorization level for the technical design and some prototyping that they were doing. And as we've been working with them, we looked at all the components that make up their total package of early learning. And there was a fairly sizable group of items that as they've gone through the technical design, they really didn't need to do a lot more to it. Because they were components that were consistent and all basically the same as what we did here in the small branches and in Redmond. And they're really focused on the other 3/4 of the stuff. This is about, roughly 25–30% of the total. And one of the things that Figure Plant wanted to do, they built a team in their manufacturing group in their plant that is making all of the stuff we're doing, right? Because it's all made by their people there. So they said, well, can we take our Redmond, as we finish Redmond, we'd like to roll our team right in because they have all of the knowledge, the experience working with our exact product, our exact materials and the designs and stuff. And wanted to let them get a big chunk of work fabricated early, so they have more time for the new stuff as we go through this next year. And so it was really advancing early a portion of the fabrication of things that we already know that's exactly what we want, don't need to change it, just make it. And so they have a facility to store their plant. And they're over in Portland area, so they'll put it into a climate control warehouse and keep it there until it's ready to come over. So this is requests for us to advance them that cost to proceed with that fabrication. It made a lot of sense. And we're even talking about as we go through Central and complete it, we will roll continuously right into downtown for the same reasons. There's just a lot of synergy with their staff internally. So, questions?
Does this include, bringing in 300 rowdy kids to?
So far, the Rowdy kids have tested all over any species. Right here. And down the road, they like to test.
Good testing.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of the considerations was, okay, are we really ready to make these pieces? And when we looked at the whole list that's there, it's all stuff that we had a high confidence on it's ready for that.
Motion?
I move to provide the library director signing authority up to $580,800 for the Central Library Early Learning Fabricator technical design, prototype services, and partial component fabrication.
I just want to, I think I put a typo in there. It was really 580,000.
Oh.
But so if you want to amend that for that. Sorry about that.
I move to provide the library director signing authority up to $580,000 for the Central Library Early Learning Fabricator technical design, prototype services, and partial component fabrication.
Okay. A second. Okay, those in favor?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Yeah.
Right. This next one will be quick. This is the world's easiest report. Basically, this this monitoring report is asking, are we following the budget process? And so you have to think back to May and June. But one, that the first one is that we follow along with the board results policies as part of this And that is our budget is completely set up by your ranking of the results policies, so we have that. The second one is that we project revenues and expenses. Separation of capital and operation items, cash flow and disclosure of plan assumptions, and that is something we do in the budget process, going over how we break everything into different funds. And the last one is that we do not plan any expenditure in fiscal year more than they're conservatively projected to be available in a period. And that is something that we definitely do. And as we talked about in the budget process, we're actually at a very high level, especially in our general fund. We're like a minimum of 17% of our budget carried forward into the next year, and we were much higher. Minimum would be 3 million, we were at 17. So my interpretation is that we are in compliance with this policy.
Any questions? No, I entertain a motion.
I move that the library is in compliance with the financial planning and budgeting monitoring report.
Sure. All those in favor? Okay, passes. Okay, Todd, is there library news?
One, just want to highlight we're celebrating the fact that Lahain and the sisters have hit the 1 year mark. And so,
Really?
yes,
Wow.
yeah. I know. Yeah, so that's very exciting for us. My other news, I feel like most of this was library news, so I'm not gonna go any farther. Just repeat that I will be sending out some dates to start scheduling a couple work sessions.
Any news from the foundation?
Not much to report. We mostly discussed housekeeping items last time we got together.
Okay. All right, has anybody identified critical communication that Todd needs to get the word out on? I don't think so. Okay, self-review of the meeting. Betsy, do you want to start since you're in?
I wanted to say that I just appreciate the emphasis that Todd places on recognizing the work of the staff does. That's a constant theme, one that I've noticed being new to the board, and when I really appreciate it. It just infuses importance, and it makes it very clear the value that the organization places on staff. Thank you.
Buddy?
I reiterate that, that's always, I think, but sorry, but it's. But our meetings is to listen to the staff, talk about their passion for all that, and, thank you for your patience in explaining. This was more technical in many ways, and I appreciate that. Have a good meeting.
And just ditto what they said as far as highlighting the staff. I think that gives them a voice to us to demonstrate what they're doing. And then again, how much I appreciate your report is, outlining all the events and programs. I think that just demonstrates the dynamic library system that we have. I was struck by how the presentations at the beginning of the fall festival pieces are just a living embodiment of the vision, people learning, thriving, and connecting to one another in the communities in the world. What a perfect reflection of that.
Yeah. And I would echo what everyone has said. I always look forward to the results monitoring report because it just shows the breadth of all the places in the community that we touch and the people that we bring together. And I think the statistics back that up, that we're an integral part of this community. We are a place that connects people to each other, and I think it's fantastic, and to hear the innovative ways, like the Festival of Voices and the Levine Festival are just, they're great community events. The library is making this happen, so, great job, everybody, and thank you, as always, Greg, for your thoroughness and your patience with us, as we go through these choices. It makes me sleep at night knowing that that these projects are going so well, and a lot of that is due to your oversight, so thank you. And Todd?
I just want to highlight I think it shows the power of the governance by policy, that you can set a simple statement like people will develop a love of reading, or people will engage in meaningful conversation. And we can hand that over to our staff, and they, if you wrote that, and I would never have come to you and said, well, we're gonna do this festival at the school in Lahaina and get 500 people. And I really want to highlight the fact that it is so hard to connect with people in some of our smaller communities, where to get that many people is just incredible. Or to take something and, I mean, again, never would have designed the Festival of Voices, but not only for us to be there, but also that we can be there and partner with so many people on these things. It really takes some very simple statements that you all are making, and really allows us to do some amazing things in the community. So I love those reports too, because I'm just amazed at what people are doing. So, yeah. Thank you for putting out these policies to allow us.
And the one thing that we didn't talk about was this incredible building opened. We kind of glossed right over that, and that grand opening was an amazing event. It was so well attended, and people, it was just fun to watch people's reaction, and it's really, I think this is probably one of the most dramatic of the small branches as far as changes in space use, and yeah, it's just great to see. Great job.
So anyway, if you see, they shut this
Yeah.
gate out here. So this is how it's now set up for people that can book the room after hours. They can get in the front door. You'll see a punch pad. With our new system, we'll be able to give them a code. They'll punch in the numbers and that'll get them into the building. They have access to the bathrooms, this kitchen, and this room. And just a really neat setup for this. We haven't really had a chance to see how the after hours look in some of these places.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a slick setup, so.
I wanna just say, when I was leaving after the grand opening, there were 4 teenagers in,
Yeah, exactly.
during the grand opening, it was just,
Yes, this is what we wanted.
yeah, we were just in there on their laptops and studying, and that was very encouraging.
Yeah, no, I had forgotten about that, but yeah, it was perfect. It was just perfect, and families reading and yeah, it just was wonderful.
Yeah.
And again, thank
Oh.
you to the Lord who takes good care of us and feeds us, and it's sure we have.
Thank you. All right, well, with that, if there's no further. Meeting, thank you, everybody. That's short and sweet.